Radio. Slava Ukraini!
I see Cranky Canuck here. I see Aleks here. I see Peter here. So I'm going to just hand it off and welcome, guys, and have fun.
Thank you, Heather. We're going to go ahead and start off a little. I'm just going to start off with a bit of a social intro here because the space has not populated just yet. So, hey, Cranky, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you doing tonight, Aleks?
Oh, pretty good. I got to catch up with an old friend from Toronto this afternoon and hadn't seen her in a decade, so that was good. And got to talk geopolitics and Ukraine all day, which was neat.
There's a lot to say on all of that, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, no, we ended up sitting for lunch for like 3.5 hours just because we were having a great conversation. And hello, Peter, how you doing this evening?
I'm very good, Aleks. Good to be up here with you. And I don't know how much I'll have to contribute, but I'll be here to give you a hand. So you're welcome.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very, very much. It's I think it's the first time we've gotten to co-host together too, so that's that's always great as well. But just the extra pair of hands is fantastic.
No problem. It's actually the first time I've been up on Volley Radio. I haven't been for many months. I've been a bit preoccupied, and also I haven't really been able to keep track of the news after such a long time. So I don't feel sort of qualified to comment, but it's good to see certainly what's been happening in the last few days with Ukrainian drones making massive inroads on a regular basis and bringing the war to where it needs to be inside Russia. So there we go.
It makes for some really pretty fires and explosions on the refinery.
There was some good-looking destruction of Russian oil rigs this week. I saw a couple of them that were just crazy. And now the Ukraine is dictating to Russia how much oil they can export. I love it.
Yeah, it's the best kind of sanctions I've ever seen there. It's
Me too.
No sanction here. Let's just take it out. Now, if they can only figure out how to sink a bunch of those Black Sea, or not the Black Sea, the Ghost Fleet ships without oil aboard them, even better.
Yeah,
But one
right.
can only hope.
Let's go after the tankers they keep sending out to mess with internet wires under the ocean. Those are the ones that really bother me. Once they disconnect us, that's another level of destruction towards the West. And I hope they can quit on that soon. So.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope that we figure out a way to physically sever Russia from the internet.
That would be great because they've really done a number on the world. That's for sure. So I guess we're going to talk about the Hogue Report and foreign interference this week in Canada, right?
Yes, we are. So I'll get us started here. So welcome everybody to Signal and Noise, the Disinformation Dispatch. This is a regular segment we run on disinformation here on Volia Radio, and we will be starting up in the coming months another series to re-record in a new format with a little bit clearer and a little bit more organized to spell out all the basics of disinformation, how it works, what it is, why it's important, and the like. And that'll be a number of shows that'll be going across, and they'll be archived on Spotify so they can be listened to in order. But tonight I've got Cranky here. He is a political cartoonist and blogger from Canada. And
Hello.
We're going to be talking about the Hogue Report. Did I describe that right for you, Cranky?
Think so. And it's what everybody's been sort of whispering about, that China, Russia, and others have been messing with our elections. And so our government finally did a massive investigation a couple of years. And as it turns out, yeah, it's actually happening.
Awesome. So I've got a little summary here that I just pulled off an article. I'm just going to read this out real quick. So, January 2025, public inquiry into foreign interference in federal election processes and democratic institutions, led by Justice Marie-Josée Hogue, released a comprehensive 7-volume report after a 16-month investigation, including over 100 witnesses. Inquiry was initiated in September 2023 in response to concerns about foreign interference in Canada's democratic processes. The key findings: There was the extent of influence confirmed that foreign states, notably China and India, have attempted to interfere in Canada's democratic institutions, including the electoral processes. Other countries such as Russia, Pakistan, and Iran were also implicated. These efforts primarily involved disinformation campaigns targeting Canada, its officials, through traditional and social media channels. So that's a bit of an open start there.
There's a lot to it, so I'm not even sure where we're going to start. But for the most part, yeah, they did find there is foreign interference, so it's real.
So I can get this. I'll get it started off. So we know everyone has been whispering about China, Russia, and others just messing with elections. The government did this investigation, and they did find out, yeah, it's happening. So our elections are rigged at this point, he'd say. Is that is that the takeaway from this?
Pretty much. The report says the foreign countries, especially China, tried to meddle in influencing certain candidates, they spreading disinformation and cozying up with our politicians. But there's no actual proof that they decided who won. That said, they're getting way better at it every day. And if Canada doesn't smarten up and take this seriously, it's probably going to become a lot worse moving forward. And as we're watching the United States implode, I mean, I can't even keep up on misinformation in Canada because every day you're watching the US with about 100 things going sideways. It's moving so quickly. It's a struggle to keep up, but Canada do it, but our best. But yeah, certainly countries are messing with us. So that's true.
Okay, and with this report, what is the Canadian government doing about it?
The government knew a lot more than they told us, and they were either too slow or too scared to act. And now the report gives 51 recommendations, like tougher laws, better intelligence sharing, and cracking down on foreign agents. And are they going to follow through? Well, hopefully. I believe if we stick with our current leadership or liberals, I'm sure they'll get onto it. But I do not trust the Conservatives for a moment to get serious about it because it seems as though they are piggybacking a lot of their marketing off of the fear and misinformation that's being injected into our public discourse.
So that's definitely something we've seen. Things like the Tenet media investigation supporting the far right wing here in Canada, and that we know there's Russian money involved. And so what you're saying is we're kind of a soft target.
Definitely. Countries like China see Canada as a super easy mark, and our democracy seems to be too polite to really fight back. And the report is basically a wake-up call. Either we get serious about foreign interference, or we'll wake up one day and we've lost control over our democracy and wind up similar to the shit show below us. And I love all my American friends and followers, but what's going on down there should be a wake-up call for all of us. Misinformation destroys democracy. And that was the number one takeaway from the document, is that is what is going to erode democracy, is people being misinformed. And now there are countries that are actively going for it. It's a lot cheaper to buy ads than send missiles, rockets, and spies into other countries. So that's what we're up against.
Okay, and so you did say that there's no actual evidence that they influenced the election outcomes.
No.
But we do have the former report that came out of the Conservative Party that that the leadership bid for the Conservative Party of Canada was boosted pretty heavily by India to help put Pierre Poilievre in as the leader. That's beyond the scope of this specific report, though.
Yeah, we don't know exactly, but I'm certain there's only so much they can figure out. People aren't going to admit to doing things. They interviewed 150 people. They went through a ton of top secret documents, but public approval of things is swayed by buying ads, by repeating nonsense over and over again. I've worked in advertising for up to over 30 years now. And the one takeaway from advertising is if you repeat a message enough times, people just simply believe it. So you can't prove that that's happening, but it certainly is. One of the hallmarks of fascist communications is repeating a simple message over and over and over again, and even if it's not true. But eventually, once somebody hears it enough times, if you're a smart person, a dumb person, a person on the left or the right, this becomes the truth. This is why the Conservatives in Canada, to me, are a giant threat, because they are basically doing slogan campaigning, and they're not running on any policies other than these endless slogans and manipulative ways of running headlines and just creating a ton of chaos within our system. So we have one thing that this report didn't really cover is domestic interference. There are people really here in Canada that are messing with how the system works, and they're being influenced by external foreign forces like foreign actors. So there's a lot to put together here, and how it all fits, it's anybody's guess. I mean, this is a massive amount of information. We got 990 pages on foreign interference, but how much do we really know about domestic interference?
That is a good question, and I know we've seen, I know we see at least anecdotal evidence here that it's definitely happening with the Liberal Party of Canada. For those who don't know, the party has a pretty easy system to sign up for the party. It doesn't actually cost any money, unlike joining the Conservative Party of Canada. You can join it and you can sign up to vote in the Liberal leadership race. And there have been thousands of people who have been signing up for accounts to just vote in the race. And a lot of them bragging about it on X, which is hilarious because in the terms and conditions, it specifically states that going ahead and misrepresenting yourself is a crime, and acting as and pretending to be a member of that party while you're a member of another party is also a crime. And it is actually pretty punishable too. It's up to a $10,000 fine plus court costs for the person who has been charged. So that's certainly a thing. And if
Yeah,
they compare the Conservative and Liberal voting rolls, there's going to be some hell to pay there, from what I understand.
I think people should really be held to account for this. If they're going to break the law that brazenly and brag about it, I think a few people need to be made, being called out for it.
Oh,
Like it's
absolutely.
there just is not enough people. Like, let's make an example out of somebody who's done this to deter others from doing it. Laws don't matter if we don't follow them and we don't enforce them. That's the problem with a lot of laws. They're toothless.
My
They don't
suggestion
actually apply.
would be hitting Tamara Litch, who is probably the highest profile one, the leader of the
Yes, the
Freedom
sentient
Convoy.
walking yeast infection. Yeah, that's her.
That's
Sorry.
that's one way to put it. It's
But yeah, how can she go out there and do these kinds of things that she's doing? She's just spreading nonsense around, and they act like children. You can't call these people out, and we can't punish them. But we're going to have to start doing something about people who don't follow the rules. And hopefully, this report starts to get others to start paying attention and bring the hammer down on those that are acting against Canada's best interests. And
I'm
in
hoping
fact,
so as
all of
well.
our
Yeah.
best interests.
I'm so hoping so as well. There's a phenomenon out there that I've dubbed toddler politics, and this is where you've got the very very partisan people who are just looking to own their opponents and do whatever they can to screw the other side over, and they don't really care about the consequences at all. In a way, it's much
No,
like playing chess with a pigeon. If you heard that old
I have.
yeah, no matter.
They stomp around the board, knock off all the pieces, and then claim they won.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's
And shit on the board too. They also poop on it.
yes,
So
they do.
I have birds. I can guarantee you that will
Oh,
happen.
they are absolutely poop machines like no other. It's, it's kind of wonderful there.
Can
All
I
right.
add something?
Yes.
So the way we do things here usually is you just put up your hand
Oh,
in
I did.
the space, and we will call on you to come up as soon as we can. But go ahead.
Okay, well, going back to what you said about the liberal being a registered liberal leader is very easy to do. The Liberal Party is very much aware, and they are doing their vetting process. I'm a volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
and I have emails with different contacts, and they are very, very much aware, not just on social media, but emails through their volunteers and that team.
That's good to hear, and I'm glad to hear that. A volunteer from the party being here is great to have, and your input will be. I'm certain your input will be useful throughout this conversation.
Thank you.
Could I make can I make a list of accounts that have apparently voted in this and are laughing about it, and please call them out? I would love that. The truck driver pleb, he's got to go. He's out there bragging about this. Anyway.
Oh yeah, he's a particularly pernicious example of
Yep.
disinformation and just absolute garbage politics.
Yep.
I've looked at his posts, and well over half of what he says is an outright lie, and the rest is almost all misleading. I've
Yep.
seen maybe like a handful of posts from him that are even anyway reasonable, and they're usually about something like a hockey game, not politics.
Yeah, that's it. It's misinformation or sports. I don't know how that sort of
They
does it for people.
yeah.
But one thing I'll say about misinformation, I really appreciate Elizabeth May this week talking about how we fix the sewer that is social media. And I think in one of the spaces I've done recently is I had some ideas about charging people for lies, but she had a better idea. Charge the platforms. Like, make the platforms actually responsible for the crap that they publish. So if they're actually harming our world and creating and pushing lies to make clicks and money, they should be paying through the nose for these problems. So Elizabeth May says make them just as responsible as any other publisher of the past, and that would actually clear the problem up massively and quickly. Now that would be some laws I could get behind.
It would. There you get into a pretty quick argument about where freedom of speech falls into that, but we don't have a First Amendment in Canada, and I'm pretty happy about that, really, because you're not allowed to just spew bullshit and think you're going to get away with it here. However, the enforcement does leave a lot to be desired.
Right. Well, the one thing is with these platforms, they are private. They should be able to do what they want, but they should also not be able to cause problems and rip the ass out of democracy. They should be responsible for what they're doing. And currently they're not. And also citizens should be held to account. If you're going to go out there and lie and lie and lie and lie, there really needs to be some sort of consequence to this, because one thing that I just don't see is consequences for poor behavior that is, anti-democratic, and got to start enforcing this stuff. There has to be some examples made. I mean, we have Jordan Peterson out there, the thought leader of the right, insisting all kinds of crazy things, even going down to Mar-a-Lago with Danielle Smith and Kevin O'Leary trying to kiss the ring. Well, turns out their entire event of going down there didn't help a bloody thing. They go out on social media, lie, make things up. And again, how come nobody ever holds them to real account for the bullshit they're doing? As far as I could tell, going and overwriting what Trudeau had to say to Trump is actually precisely what treason is. He's working against our country's interests and our elected leaders. Nobody elected him. So I think we have more so a domestic problem with misinformation than external. External is definitely messing with us from this report, but no one really talks about all of these different people from inside our own country that are trying to take us down. Like, they've got to be stopped. They got to be called out. They got to be told what they are, and time people start standing up to that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There is a lot of danger here, and we have seen some of the results. The Freedom Convoy, which did honestly piggyback on some real proper gripes that people did have. It's not that there was no basis to it whatsoever, but it grew so rapidly out of control of the original people who were getting together that it became its own entire social movement. And it was, what, 3 weeks that they kept the capital of Canada locked down?
Yes, they did. And then it was actually Doug Ford's responsibility to take that down. But what they did was Doug, I don't know, hid out at the cottage and had nothing to do with it, because they really wanted Trudeau to deal with it so they could make him look like a dictator. He's the bad guy. But it was actually a provincial responsibility, and they did pass the buck onto Trudeau, and finally something had to happen. What are they going to do? Leave a bunch of people, trucks and bouncy castles and people pooping in the streets endlessly? No, they're going to tear it down, because that's not what people should be doing. That wasn't a protest, but that was an occupation, and that's not allowed. That's against the rules. So, yeah, that wasn't great.
No, absolutely. And your claim of treason, it's actually one that I've looked at. There's some very specific statutes that are violated by what Danielle Smith and Peterson have been trying to do. It actually falls under sections 59, 46, and 122 of the Criminal Code of Canada. So as per the letter of the law, you can make a very good case for sedition under section 59. You could make a case under treason potentially, and you can definitely make a case on official misconduct as well as fraud or abuse of public office.
Great.
So there's a few statutes that are directly hit there. The treason part only actually counts if it's specifically to weaken the government of Canada's trade relationships or during a time of war, which I can argue that we're at war, but as far as the federal government is concerned, we are not actively involved in a formal declaration of war at this time.
Well, back to the public inquiry. One thing that I do question about this whole report is how come the U.S. wasn't mentioned at all as being foreign interference? Because we know Elon has bought this particular platform, and a lot of stuff has been coming out of the United States. There was money that was fueled from patriotic Texans into the convoy and other things like that, but not a single mention in here. I just asked the report itself. So the final report primarily focused on foreign interference from countries such as China, Russia, Iran, and India. The report did not identify the United States as a source of interference in Canada's electoral processes. Instead, the U.S. is considered a key ally countering foreign interference. The report emphasizes the importance of international collaboration, particularly with allies like the United States, to share intelligence and best practices in safeguarding democratic institutions. Now, that all sounds wonderful, but we're currently in a situation with the US that they are definitely going to mess with our elections. I do not want Elon Musk's space shit involved in the Ontario election coming up, and I think we actually have to end a lot of these connections with the people in the United States as they start dragging themselves down. We can't not go down with that Titanic. But I think there should have been more discussion about key players in the US that have been messing with Canada. You have Tucker Carlson up there. You have various people on Fox News talking about how they're going to come after Canada. You know, Donald Trump himself, and it's not like this started a week ago. They've been doing this stuff for a couple of solid years. So I do find it kind of funny how they sidestep the whole US, even though the US was funneling money into our whole convoy thing that was inspired by Mark Roman. He was part of the fake electors in the US, and there's connections from Canadians to the Jan 6 stuff that happened in the United States. It's all connected. So this report, as great as it is, this doesn't really get into the nitty gritty of all of the different ways that foreign interference can mess with our elections. It's deeper than this. And it's focusing on China, Russia, Iran, and India. Well, what about other countries that are messing with us? Nothing's mentioned.
No, it isn't, and that's one of the things. The Americans definitely have been involved. Like, just if you look just at the Freedom Convoy, they raised around $19 million to fund this takeover of Ottawa, and like that's a significant amount of money. It's not a drop in the bucket at all. That's a lot of money to spend. And they were able to determine that 52% of the overall donations did come from Canada, which is quite a bit. It was actually, and to get the exact number, 42% of them came from the United States. So almost half came directly from the United States, with Americans trying to influence Canadian politics. And
so how come that is not counted as foreign interference?
I can't answer that in regards to the report, but I would agree with you 100% that it is.
Because I'm just going through the report. I have the whole thing up in front of me, and I've got AI ripping it apart as we go. And there's not a single mention of the Freedom Convoy, and it doesn't talk about any of that, even though that's a movement in Canada aiming to disrupt our elections. How come? Like, it seems very soft-handed. It's not really going after the right people. Like, what is this exactly? For instance, Trudeau mentioned that Jordan Peterson was on the take from Russia. Let's see if there's anything to do with that.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was, and we know he was, and it's no coincidence that he spent time in Russia overcoming his painkiller and opiate addiction. Who knows what happened during that time? My guess would be that there's been a lot of influence and probably some compromat involved there as well.
Oh, I would think.
But
That's what they do.
that individual is he is a right-wing thought leader, but he's also what I like to refer to as the incel whisperer. He is very problematic in
Oh,
that
yes.
he is purposely trying to weaponize angry young men
Yep.
who blame anything but themselves for not being able to, find a good job and find a partner. And they demonize feminism like crazy, and it leads
Mm-hmm.
to like the incel movement is definitely a terrorist movement. You've got people like Alex Minasan who killed 20 some odd people right in Toronto with a truck driving through them, and he did it because he was inspired by the incel writings. And Jordan Peterson's been a huge proponent of this. So you
He
can
has.
argue that he's directly involved in terrorist activity by spouting the ideology, and if nothing else, it is stochastic terrorism. It's a hugely problematic
Well,
thing.
by pushing these men off into crazy land and also, espousing extraordinarily conservative, hard right views, he is messing with our elections. His platform is massive. He beats people up on it. He's a bully. None of this is great. But again, I asked the foreign interference report, is there any mention of this person exactly? Nope, nothing. It doesn't talk about any of these personalities that are messing with our democracy. And how come that is not mentioned? It's like, how much money did this cost? And it just really doesn't cut it. Like, yeah, there's problems, but it doesn't really identify domestic bullshit that's happening. Nothing. And, and a lot of the domestic bullshit that's happening is fueled by foreign entities because, they want to cause chaos. They want us to have problems. Like, it's competitive. So, yeah, as I'm looking through this more and more, it's not helping us as much as I would have hoped. I mean, I wasn't expecting to get out my pitchfork and torches on it. Okay, maybe a little bit, but where's any of the stuff to do with how it's actually affected us? Because it's not here. So anyway,
Yes, I
I'm
agree.
going over the same point on and on.
It's not there to tell us exactly who the individuals involved were. I do see
No.
James has his hand up here. James, would you like to pop in on the conversation?
Yeah, Alex, I would. And hi, Cranky, and thank you for coming. And Peter, thank you for co-hosting. The chair looks better with you in it. Anyway, the reason I popped up was just to talk about the word treason and what it means, and especially for a man who's got three nationalities: South African American and Canadian. So he's a multiple repeat kind of thing. The law that would take care of this, the closest one that I've seen, is that Ukrainian law against somebody of their business stature, that their wealth, in other words, basically, and what power they have, uh, making it illegal for them to also control media so that they can then use information to essentially, basically, earn more money. And so that is something I think that it's troublesome. We're not. Who's at war? Who's declared war? Treason's war. It's narrowly defined or not. I think it's treacherous. I think it's, but like strictly speaking, but throwing strictly speaking out, I would say, yeah, this is treason. This is really an organized, open to the public to watch plot in action to overthrow one country after another, and they do it too well. So undue influence, I think, is what we need to worry about. Influence is a good thing. Just like saying, hey, look, there's a better way. Here's some technology. Now you can do that. That's great influence if you can get that. Usually it comes with deep strings attached, right? So I think there's that question too, like what's fair, and but our you can tell what's fair or not by having a set of principles, and so I'm thinking about that neo idealism and their 8 points. That gives me a way to say, well, are they trying to influence us toward a better democracy with higher standard of living, freedom,
No.
equal justice, or not? And have some kind of rating. And so I'd say that about all that. Because some people might say, "Hey, you want to come and join the defense club?" Or whatever it is. And so it's not all malign. It is if there's some people involved. I'll just say that as a rule that, yeah, it really they break the rule. They say it themselves. So I say Russia. No, you can't ever trust them. But there'll be no good influence. If it seems good, it just means it's really really bad.
Well, of course, there's freedom there, James. You're absolutely free to choose which hand you want your thought monitoring chip implanted in.
So
Thanks.
I pulled up here the kinds of types of treason in Canada, so that we should discuss it, right? Because we do throw the word around a whole lot. To me, anybody against Canada is treason. But actually, if we're going to define it, that's not true. So one is high treason. It's the most serious form, defined under Section 46 of the Criminal Code. It includes waging war against Canada or assisting an enemy at war with Canada. So no one's done that exactly, right? Attempting to harm or kill the king or governor general. That hasn't happened. Using force or violence to overthrow the Canadian government. Well, that would be the convoy, and that's probably why Pat King is going to be in jail for a while, and so's Tamara Lich and a few others, and helping a foreign power to take control of Canada. Now, that's the one that I believe there's a whole lot of dirty guys with tons of money that should be called out for that. Like the lead on that would be sort of a Kevin Leary. Now, treason in the lesser forms defined under Section 46, communicating military or intelligence information to foreign entities to harm Canada. I don't know of anything like that. Assisting foreign agents in spying or conducting sabotage against Canada. For sure that's happening somewhere, but I don't know. Attempting to subvert or destabilize Canadian institutions through unlawful means. Now, that last one there, I would think that they're trying to destabilize Canada institutions with their talking, with their shows and the Russian influence and the money. There's stuff going on with that. And then finally, penalties for treason in Canada. High treason is life imprisonment, and treason up to life imprisonment, depending on the offense. And then we have other offenses, which is sedition and espionage. So that breaks down all the kinds of treason. But we do have a few things domestically that kind of hit what that means. I'm sure of it. Like I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds shifty as F to me. So
We do, James.
Well, first, most of us are not lawyers, but we're expected to follow all the laws. So anyway,
yeah.
no, I really wanted to say that you guys have got some great laws and great definitions, and ours could use some refinement. I don't want to raise. I raised it 2 years ago now. I think what Alan Brewer said something like. You don't want to open up that kind of Pandora's box, a constitutional convention, but we could use some updated laws and those definitions that you gave us. You know, as you said it, perfect. Those are really clear, understandable, and wide in terms of coverage, whereas the treason covers one band, right, of
Yeah.
activity. It's almost like treason goes better with the pre-UN law, and nowadays we need something better than that to fight because it's all hybrid, and we're not a combatant, but we're helping the combatant, that kind of thing. Anyway, thanks you guys. It's great. I'm going to be quiet.
It actually makes
Yeah.
me
Thanks
very.
for stepping up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cranky.
Oh, just saying thanks for stepping up. Yeah.
Perfect. I was going to say, there's a few laws that are on the books that I really wish we could take advantage of. The Queen, and after her passing, they have not updated the law on the Canadian books at this point. But under Section 49 of the Criminal Code of Canada, alarming Her Majesty. So everyone who goes willfully in the presence of Her Majesty doesn't act with intent to alarm Her Majesty or to break the public peace is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 14 years. So really, the Queen could just show up, stand in front of Jordan Peterson, let him spray his bullshit, and she can just go, I am alarmed, and they just haul his ass off to jail. And I think we need some more of that.
Definitely. No, I want to stick him on a piece of ice. We're going to push him off in the Atlantic or the Arctic
The
Ocean.
long
You're all
float.
getting on the ice. Float away, you bastards.
Yeah.
So, where do we want to go on this? Like, what kind of questions do we have for this report? It's just massive. I don't even know where to start. I mean, we've done the major takeaways, and I was shocked to find out there wasn't more to it. And it just seems so, I don't know, like mayonnaise or something. It's just fat, but kind of tasteless.
Fair enough. You're not making very good mayonnaise then. You're buying it off the shelf.
I guess so.
It's actually quite easy to make yourself and much nicer. James, I see your hands up.
Yes. So where I'd like you guys to talk about for a minute is the how would you compare the effect of the Gaza-Israeli conflict? Gaza, went in October 7, 2023, and it's been a while now, and it impacted our elections, I believe, significantly. And at the margin, that's all it takes. So that and because I think there's something unique about this influence from that conflict, and that is that you didn't have to pump things into the data sphere so much. It's just that the optics. Well, no, I'm wrong. No, they did. They pumped a lot of stuff out that was crap, but it really did control the media. And what it did was it made some voters stay home, and it made some other voters vote in a way that you wouldn't expect. And so there was, or might not have expected, based on what you thought of the polity of the United States. And I wondered if you had seen a similar effect in Canada from that conflict and had any sense of how it worked out in terms of any voting, and maybe I don't even know if there's any voting data at this point.
So we haven't
I
had
think.
an election yet
Go ahead.
from since October 7th. So that has not yet hit us. I'm sure there's going to be some effect. Cranky, if you have some insight, please.
I think that everything. First of all, there is a whole lot of disinformation on the left too, and I don't speak to it very often because we're more at war with the hard right taking over democracy. Like that is where the fight is right now. But on the left, when it comes to Israel Hamas, there is a whole lot of nonsense on the left to make people believe and say things that were just outrageous, insane, not democratic. And that whole thing has fractured a lot of the solidarity that we did have on the left. Parts of me believe that it was, again, I can't prove any of this, but I believe that Putin finally gave the leader Netanyahu sort of a green light to go in and curb stomp the Palestinians to actually create this and then inject more disinformation about what's happening and how that's going on. And because there was stuff that I saw a long time ago, like a couple of years back, and I'd have to dig for it, but there was intelligence that came from the US about Israelis' defenses and the holes in it that was passed from the US to the Saudis to Iran to Hezbollah to Hamas. And then they took advantage of this hole and went in and did that big giant mess. So, I mean, I'd have to really dig for all of that information. But to me, it always felt like it was a way of fracturing the left solidarity. And I think it really has done a real number on a lot of people because I've seen people go super hard right over this whole thing and lose all compassion because holy shit, the stuff that Hamas did is unspeakable. And what Netanyahu did in return is even more unspeakable. Like, it's just violence begets more violence, and it's a mess. So there is disinformation about that, and I don't think we talk about that very much, but certainly we're influenced by it.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
The problem is that we're a little too old for this to be the target demographic, Cranky. The
Yeah.
TikTok generation are the ones that are really getting hit by this. I have
Mm-hmm.
a young teenage niece, and I speak with her pretty regularly about this sort of thing. And some of the claims she's brought to me have just been such nonsense. She sent me a meme
Yeah.
with a picture of a demolished Damascus suburb that was labeled, "Did you know that it was a while back, but in the year since Israel started bombing Palestine, they've used more bombs than were dropped in the entirety of World War II." And I'm like, this is
Oh my
complete
lord.
nonsense. And I'm going to do some
No.
math with you here.
Yeah, right. So they are definitely hit with it, and TikTok, I've always thought, has been a weapon, and there's a reason why America is in the midst of acquiring it, is they want to keep their whole ecosystem in there, and they want to be able to adjust the youth's thoughts on all of this with these social media tools. And as I'm looking at this report, it just doesn't dig nearly deep enough into how serious this is, that all of our social media are owned by billionaires, and all of our media is owned by billionaires, and post media is into Canada. But they're spreading bullshit hardcore on the left as well. And again, I don't go after it the way I do on the right, just because I don't fear a leftist takeover is imminent in any means. So if anybody thinks the left's going to take over with quote unquote our wokeness, let me know how the fuck they're going to do that when they don't actually own anything or have any of the real levers of power. Yes, go ahead, James.
Yeah, well, I see your point. Yeah, all of us and our guns, right? I got a rubber band gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, well, I still worry because they're still part of the power structure, voting, that is, and that ability
Mm-hmm.
of our enemy to recognize that this was going to split the left, and therefore
Yeah.
get a candidate in who is very, very advantageous to them. Well, shit, we're kind of screwed. So, not necessarily, but I mean, we have to think about it like this. And for you guys, I watch your Polyvary or whoever he is, kind of like you guys have some similar politics, to be sure. And you kind of have got your own. They're not MAGA, are they? No, but whatever you call them. And
Maple MAGA.
Maple, oh my god. And I'm hungry. Anyway, um, with strawberry slices. No, I know where I was going with this. So yeah, I, and the people you think, well, not you think, but older people have also been affected by this. I have had friendship breakups, and I'm not fatal, but seriously wounded the relationships, and it was because of the stance I had versus the stance that they had, and one was kind of more or less openly kind of pro Russia in the sense of that liberal communist thing that never existed anyway. And the
No.
both of them. So anyway, I should stop talking about my personal affairs, but it is
No,
just
it's
a note
important
to.
too, though.
Yeah, but I should stop talking about it. They'll figure it out, and I'll be in trouble then. Anyway.
Fair. Well, I'll say that somebody who's very close to me has fallen down the QAnon rabbit hole all the way, and one of my closest friends for my entire life has transformed into a full-blown Nazi because of this
Yeah.
crap. And
It's
it's one of the big reasons I'm out here doing this, because I'm searching for a way to help bring him back to the light. It's
me too. And I don't even know how to get my head around that kind of stuff when people go that far down it. It's like, I can't remember his name, but he studies cults. He's a really sharp guy. He says that our goal to try to bring them out, it's like all these people are in a really scary movie theater and they don't know where the doors are and they're just watching horror on the screen. Our job is to go in there with a flashlight, grab them by the hand, and ask them questions until you can kind of lead them back out of that room. But it's just so many of them that I've found out that their moral compass is so damaged in comparison to whatever I thought they were about that I don't even want to try in some cases. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you have to have a level of narcissism and lack of empathy to even head down those paths because not everybody does, right? Like, so you want to help them, but at the same time, I find like it repulsive to want to help them. So I'm very stuck with it. And I think about it all the time. How do you help these people out of these places? And it fuels my rage to go even harder against those that did it and those that I see as causing us problems. And that's what I chase. And I shit talk trolls all the time, trying to see different methods of trying to break through. And it's pointless. I know it's kind of silly on Twitter, but occasionally when I get a live one that I know is a real person, I don't go at them too hard. And I want to just try to ask them questions and see why they think this. And every time I come back to it, it's always lack of moral compass. And they get mad at people who quote unquote virtue signal. Like, like they get mad at other people for feeling bad, like or having a heart. So I'm not even sure how to attack it. But that's been my experience is we're supposed to be patient beyond doubt to help them out of this scary movie theater that's programmed them. But why did they fall down that hole to start with? I keep coming back to that.
Well, it's not always just a complete lack of moral compass. Part of it is a deeply moral compass too. You have to remember the premise that is used for QAnon, and it is that there's this global cabal of elites, which they don't tell you at
Save the
first is
babies.
really the Jews. That's
Yeah,
what they
yeah.
who they will eventually tell you it is. But a global
Hmm.
cabal of elites who essentially is consuming children both as sexual playthings and then to harvest their adrenal glands so they can make drugs out of them.
That's right.
And once you've got them to believe that, they believe they're fighting the good fight and trying to save children.
And they think we're all bad people because of this. So, yeah, but so there is that. That's a different kind of person that's sucked in. So, yeah, they're not all the same. They're all different kinds of messes. So, we have a couple of hands
Yeah,
up.
we had
Who
James
was
first,
first?
then Dan, then Mary.
I'm going to start with some of the things that lead people down that path are just one is avarice, and then the realization that they don't mind who dies, and to get that whatever they want. So the things that lead us collectively to do this, just think about corporations and how you buy stock and then you live on that. And now, as and quoting Will, uh, we're the richest generation now, the old people, that is, and then maybe that's fitting because you earn money over your lifetime and save it. But it is strange that the people coming up are much less rich than us, and so it creates motives, and so we get into trouble that way. And the other thing is, I think we really fail to understand just how great it is that we can have equal justice under the law for all equally. And what that does is it gives everybody an incentive. And so, anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks, you guys. Very interesting.
Sure, I'd like to comment that that right there is probably the biggest part of what the slowly spreading fascist plague is trying to do away with. They want to make it abundantly clear and change it so that not everybody is equal before the law. Uh,
Yep.
Dan, you're up next.
Good point, Alex. Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah. I just wanted to say to Cranky, when you were saying how do you do this? Or how do you listen to these people? I can do it for 2 or 3 times. I try in a calm state. Usually not when I'm tweeting, though. That's sometimes I can't help myself. But anyways, um, I use the word triage. That's how I treat everyday life. I know it's probably not the right way to go, but I have to for my own sanity. I do it with my family. Why do you think this way? Why do you, or I listen to them when it comes to my turn. I try to say something and they cut you off. Oh, no, 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 that's not right. So I do this 2 or 3 times. Then I triage, move to the next person or move to the next thing. I don't stay on it anymore because, like Alex said before, they're so far down the rabbit hole. Nothing's gonna save them, and your energy and time is spent trying to drag them back up. So it's better just to move on. But all good points, guys. Thanks, James. I want to hear what Mary's got to say.
Yeah, Mary, come on up.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, and I know I say this often, be careful lumping everyone into this pile of, I'm not 100% sure what this pile is of whatever it is, but painting them with this broad brush of they have no morals, they have no whatever, because that's not really 100%. I mean, that's just not at all. I mean, and um, my father's a conservative. He did not vote for Trump probably because of me. He sat out this election because he, at the same time, did not want to vote Democrat. But I think he respected me enough and my feelings that he would not vote for Trump. Um, my, but he is a conservative. But he's 100% on board with Ukraine. He is the most caring, loving person you would ever meet. He did 30 years in the military, in the Navy, and worked other jobs. I mean, so saying that, I mean, that is just, I don't know. I get tired of hearing this all conservatives are evil, all conservatives are whatever. Um, and it's just, and I can say as somebody who owns a business that the past 4 or 5 years have been the absolute worst for our business. We literally, and we've been in business for almost 30 years, and we have barely been able to make payroll. And it's not because we don't have the work. We have the work. It's because our guys will decide that they don't want to come to work. They'll call us in the morning and just say, oh, yeah, we're not coming in because it's not worth it for them. And these are guys who we pay $25, $26 an hour to cut grass.
Yeah, there's a lot of money that has been sucked up to the top 1% that has left everybody else hurting. And let's be clear, I have conservative friends that I think are quite cool and we have great debates. But Trumpism is not conservatism. And that is where I draw the line. They are not, like, you have cops that have voted for a felon, you have women that voted to remove their rights, you had immigrants that voted to deport themselves, and you actually had a bunch of Christian and God-loving people that voted for fucking Satan. So I can't really see, you'd have to have something deeply wrong with you, or you have to really hate
No,
something to vote for
no,
that.
I get that 100%. I just want people to be clear that there's a difference between what he is versus
Your dad is.
a traditional conservative is. A-
Oh yes, I
and I
agree.
just want to make sure that, people understand that, and so that they don't paint everybody with this broad brush. And I feel like there's a lot of conservatives right now, especially in the United States, who feel like they don't have a home because we have this whatever this orange buffoon is.
Clown show
Uh,
of evil.
right. And I'm an independent. I don't vote Democrat. I think I've said this many times on this space. I vote for the person. So, but I just wanted to make sure that people understand that conservatives, a lot of them
No, it's
are not
absolutely, you're
Trumpers.
absolutely right, and it is worth being careful with the language. Some of us are, well, you're going to have a problem with most of the Canadians coming in when they start talking about Trump overall, because it's a very, very, very sore subject for us right now. There's a lot going on, but if things continue the way they are right this second, and I have absolutely no reason to believe that they won't, on Saturday, Canada will be in a trade war with the United States over Trump attempting to, or Trump declaring that he wants to annex us and turn us into a 51st state. And we don't want to be part of the United States any more than Ukraine wants to be part of Russia.
So the best way to say this is conservatism is not here right now in the United States, and it's fascism is what we're really talking about in disinformation that's growing it. I mean, what really blows my mind is, in 10 days, the US has already opening up its own bloody concentration camps in Guantanamo Bay. This isn't normal behavior. There is nothing that is conservative about this. So let's get that clear. There are normal people out there that have businesses and just want to thrive and all that. I get that. But, if you're a conservative, but we're all facing an existential threat, I think you have to get over your politics and vote out the bad guys. But that's not what's happening here. People are really inspired by the hate to destroy themselves. And we're reliving all the echoes of the past every day. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. And I mean, Democrats and liberals in general haven't got a clue with the messaging. They've completely flubbed it. With all kinds of things. It's just, we're heading into a real mess. But yeah, I don't put all conservatives in the same place. But definitely QAnoners are strange. But people who are like, oh yeah, Trump is great, they've got some deep hate that's seated within them that you'll have to dig to find. And I don't want to put the effort into that anymore.
I'd like to give Mary a chance to respond to that, and then we're going to go over to Dan.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree, and it's just like with what was going on today, with the tragedy that occurred, and his response to it was actually, just deplorable, and
Disgusting.
I mean, and just it was. And I've made many posts on my Facebook account. I have special needs children and work with them and stuff. So I just, it's absolutely deplorable that he's trying. Anyways, but yes,
Just
and sadly, there's precedent for he wants to do with Guantanamo Bay. So I'm afraid he's going to
Yep.
try to use the fact that it's been done before as a precedent to do it again.
Just for posterity's sake, you mentioned the tragedy that happened today. Which one are you talking about, so that our listeners later on know what we're talking about?
Well, I guess technically it happened last night, but the collision between the plane and the helicopter in DC.
Perfect. I thought that's what you were talking about, but I just want to make sure when we are releasing this as a podcast and someone's tuning in a year from now, they know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I just meant his statements were today. So
Do you have any information on hand what he said, or anybody really? You can wave at me if you can tell me exactly what was said.
He was. Go ahead.
He was blaming it on the DEI initiatives, and then using the fact that he pointed out that they were hiring people with disabilities, and he read off the list of the different disabilities that they were allowing to be hired. It was just completely disgusting of what he was doing.
Disgusting and insane.
Yeah.
And what the reports came back with is that there's been a whole shakeup over there because they fired a whole top brass within the FAA and a whole lot of DA hires. So they just basically crippled all of the people that are looking after airplanes and helicopters where they're landing, and they're just bringing in some bringing off people that are cold off the bench to play these positions that they've never done before. So all of a sudden, you wind up with all these dead people, and this has to do with Elon Musk, Dodge, Trump, and 100% them. And they own this I'm going to swear my face off about it, but we haven't had America hasn't had an accident like that since 2009. And now this is happening because they cut all the talent and kicked out all the quote unquote DEI hires. It's insanity. And again, this is not conservatism. This is fascism, and this is how it works.
And I want to make a note that the air traffic controller who was responsible for controlling that helicopter and that plane was doing the job of two people at that time because they did not have enough people available to do this. And so that should have been two separate positions being run at the same
Yep.
time. But that one person was covering both, and it cost lives. Air traffic control is one of the most stressful jobs in the world, and it is hugely complicated. And I don't have the direct experience, but it's not something you should be having someone cover the work of the other guy who's not there today.
This is not like selling shoes at a shoe store. This is really talented work
Yeah.
and precision, and it takes a special kind of person to do that. I'm a pretty precise person, but I know how hard that job is. I knew someone from the past that did that job, and it's craziness. You make a mistake, people die.
Yep, it absolutely is. We have a hand up from Dan, and then James is back up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, my uncle was the air traffic controller, and he died young from stress with a heart condition. But anyways, Mary, I hear what you're saying, and I don't think it's a conservative movement, which is in power now. It's a whole tenuous of QAnon theory, MAGA. It's all this. It's a whole bunch of groups, the Nazis. It's all a bunch of little tribes all together. And I often wonder if there isn't something, as a human being, somewhere along the way, something tragic or stressful happens to us somewhere in our life in early adulthood or childhood or something that makes us click and say, I'm not doing that again. And this is all that one's fault. You know what I mean? So you get on this road and you don't want to look into yourself at all. That's when you stop looking at yourself and start blaming others. But yeah, it's not all. I was a progressive Republican when I was like 18 or 19 in my early 20s too, and I got out of the because we were squeezed out. But that was years ago. But yeah, I don't think it's all one thing. It's a whole group of things that make up what we got now. Um,
Oh, it
that's all I
is.
was going to say.
We do
Yeah,
have we've got
definitely.
well established. There's some really well established pipelines out there that are designed to bring people into the radical right wing, and it's not a joke. You've got the suburban mom, soccer mom, worried about her kids, led into anti-vaxxer, led into hardcore right fascism. Then you've got the
Hmm.
young men who are struggling in life because they can't find a job, because nobody can find a job that's really worthwhile, and they don't really see where their future is going, and someone tells them it's all women's fault, and feminism is to blame, and you end up with the incel terrorists, like Alex Smith is saying, running a truck through crowds of people in the busiest shopping sector in a major city. And there's all kinds of these. There's definitely a prepper movement, right wing fascism pipeline, where people who are into I want to be prepared for things if they go bad, and they suddenly start thinking that the only way they can prep is by saying fuck you to everybody else. Well, community has been well established as the most important thing you can do. It's There's a lot of these pipelines, and they're all carefully designed to take advantage of people's insecurities.
Fear.
Yeah, drive them into this self-defeating narrative without even understanding that it's self-defeating.
Yeah.
James.
So John le Carre's novel "The Little Drummer Girl" is a story about recruiting a young lady who's talented, brilliant memory, attractive, all the things you'd want in an agent, and how they break her up and break her down and kind of turn her around. Um, and one of the most important things that we need to be is in a place where we belong. And so I feel a good deal of that kind of same emotion, camaraderie in this space because have known you guys for a long time. I've been on the same cruise that you've been on now for a couple of years, and it's nice. It's a place to belong. Those things really pull at us, and it, when and so I'm just focusing on the fact that these people who fall for this, they're susceptible and they don't have all the defenses. They didn't get all of the information that they needed early enough in life, for example. And we have to think about how we protect people from being left so ignorant of such important things. But to get drawn into killing people is exactly what that book was about. But to be able to stand by and cheer for it without killing yourself or whatever is still that horror that some people get into. And I got to say, I'm there with it about Russia for Ukraine's sake. So I kind of understand the feeling, the twisting. Just how do we keep it so that it is not the crazy? How do we get the truth out there so that people can identify with what's true? If I even know, some days I have my doubts, but yeah, I'm pretty sure about Ukraine.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and it's more complicated than a lot of people realize. I've got a little bit of firsthand experience of this. So my background is Serbian, and in the late '90s, some people that I know actually tried to recruit me into the ultra right wing Serbian nationalist movement to want to commit terrorist attacks in Canada. And these were people I cared about, who I trusted and thought were my friends. And it was one of the hardest things in the world for me as a 17-year-old with no real idea to talk about it and to come to the decision to contact the police about it. And if I had been a slightly different person, I may well have fallen down that rabbit hole. It's not a joke by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, a lot of things, well, cults and young people, and just generally people who are alone, who don't have friends, they find a sense of community in these little groups and online groups, and they find, wow, I'm not the only one who feels like this. And it's at its core, it's how cults and tribes are built, right? Because one thing that the right is very welcoming to people coming over to their side and being like, yeah, forget them libtards. You come over here and we'll love you even as you're crazy as you are, and we believe all the same things. They're creating a sense of community. I mean, deeply, that's all humans want is connection. And fascism thrives off of ignorance and that need for connection. And, it, and that's where it starts. So back to what I said earlier about morality, it isn't always about that. It's true. It's just, I've met some people that I'm just shocked with what they think now and where they started. But for the most part, I think a lot of people get stuck in tribal situations because of loneliness and wanting to feel a part of something. Because one thing conspiracy culture had way back, I mean, we're talking 2010, was you could meet a whole lot of interesting people with unique thoughts about the world, and it was kind of fun. It was kooky, it was hilarious. But we certainly don't want people who make shit up and interesting stories running the world, like is what we're winding up with now. So yeah, it's what it's at. So anyway, I digress.
Well,
Who's
that's one
next?
of those things. It will be Dan up in a second, but I just wanted to comment there. They can also traffic on vulnerability very well too, like how that situation I was describing came to be. I was 9 years old when my father passed away very suddenly, and I found people in the diaspora that were there.
Yeah.
These were my friends, and these were the people I cared about. And a few years later, they started asking me about some questions about topics. I had been a pretty rebellious teenager, owned a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook, spent a lot of time out on the farm blowing crap up for fun. And
That was a great book, by the way.
well, actually, a lot of the recipes weren't very good. But
No, I'm just saying I had it too. It did when I was a kid.
yeah, but it was one of those things, and it feels completely natural the way it goes, and it's very predatory. Very,
Yeah.
very predatory. Dan, please come on up.
Karen in Alaska didn't take you under her wing, did she? In her garage?
No, but that's none of the stuff she talks about is foreign to me at
I,
all. There,
I,
it's
I, I had to laugh about that because we always joke with her. She's making Molotov cocktails in her garage.
yeah, no.
Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to add this for Mary too. I'll tell you the day. I'm going to tell you something personal. I was never so shocked in my life when 2.5 years ago, or it was right after January 6th. So that's probably 3.5. I don't know. I missed the date. But anyways, right, it was within a year after January 6th. And I was on Facebook. I no longer do Facebook. And I had family members on Facebook. And I don't care if they're listening to me now or not. But lo and behold, there I see my nephew, who's an adult, with an AK-47, and he lives in the same town as where the Stony Brook, where those children were massacred by another child. Holding the AK. Oh, look, I just got this rifle and it's the neatest thing. Like he was laughing and he thought it was funny. That just broke my heart. I just had, I immediately reported it, but it was awful.
Fair enough. That's and that's the sort of thing that can happen too. And you get and that definitely becomes a thing that that exists within gun culture too. And it's definitely something that turns off a lot of folks who otherwise wouldn't be interested. I'm in one of those weird positions because I'm pretty far left as far as most people are concerned, but when it comes to firearms, I lean very hard right into that particular topic.
They say if you go far enough left, eventually you get your guns back.
Yeah, eventually. But it's like I was a competitive sports shooter for years. And like I went to the Team Canada qualifiers in '08. Like it's so I was really heavily into that and really working the sport in a big way. And it's I understand the a lot of the practical aspects to it as well. And when I look at the way the Liberal government in Canada handles firearms, I'm just shaking my head because it doesn't actually help at all. Dan.
Yeah, and I'm not against guns at all. The, they're a necessity in some points, but it's just that there was so many shootings. We have shootings here like every day of the week,
Yeah,
all over the country. And because of that school thing, it was still fresh in my mind, and I saw that, and I thought it was very insensitive of anybody living right next door to that where that occurred to do that on Facebook. What were they thinking? That's what I'm. That's what. Oh, it just got
that's
me.
true. Yeah, I get
But
that completely. All my hands disappeared. Somebody had hands up, and I'm not sure who. Rachel, please go ahead.
Sorry, microphone. Talking about guns, I'm in Canada, and I'm really, really happy that.
I'm just going to pause here, Rachel. You're coming through like you're a very low voiced robot.
Oh, what?
It
You
sounds
know
like
what?
you might want to recycle, pop out, close the app, come back in. We'll bring you right back up to speak.
Okay.
And did I see a hand from Mary? Okay, well, we'll just wait for Rachel to recycle here, and then we'll bring her back up. Mary, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had to take care of my kiddo. Yeah, Dan, sorry, I have guns too, but all of mine are in gun safes and hidden away. So, but yeah, my dad made me do like all the gun safety and do all the competitive shooting and all that when I was younger. So,
And that's one of those things that I look at in the Canadian laws too. We have storage requirements. They have to be locked up. The ammo has to be locked up and stored separately. There's mandatory safety training before you can get a license. They have the ability, if you choose to have a firearms license, that's a privilege, and they can come and inspect your storage at any time if they want to. In practice, that doesn't happen, but the laws for that sort of thing are very robust here in Canada. And legally owned firearms just such a small percentage of them are used in any sort of violent act, and the legally owned ones, and the ones that are legally owned, by far the most violent act that is used for is suicide. The street shootings that we have, the firearms are coming, they're handguns first of all, and they're coming across the border from the United States, mostly from Arizona for some reason. I don't know why that is. I think it probably has something to do with the state, but a lot of them originate in Arizona and end up coming across our borders. Mary?
Yeah, I was just gonna say most of ours are in, they're in double safes, so I have, like, them in, regular, like, individual gun safes, and then I have a giant safe that they're in as well, so
Oh,
just to
that's
be.
perfect. Yeah. I
Yep.
only own a couple of rifles. So what I do with that is I lock them in a closet with trigger locks on them, and my ammo is locked up in a toolbox somewhere else in the house. Means that it's not going to be easy to access them in a hurry, but it definitely keeps them safe from being abused accidentally. So that's and the transport and storage laws we've got make a lot of sense, and they work pretty good as long as they're being followed. Rachel, please come on back up.
I
Rachel,
hope I sound better.
now you do. We can hear you
Oh
perfectly.
yes,
Thank
you
you.
sound normal
Well,
now.
I was trying to play around, and anyways, anyways. Speaking of gun laws, we don't have guns. Like, we have great gun laws here in Canada, but I'm reconsidering. We've had a home invasion just down the street last week or so, and we have no guns. It's concerning because now we have to lock our doors. We have golf clubs, but it's concerning. The police are still looking for the suspects, and it's concerning. So I'm kind of wavering here now.
Yeah, and no, it makes sense. And the process to obtain a firearms license is not particularly arduous. It takes a little bit of work and a little bit of money,
I'd
but
rather not. I'd
but
rather not.
you can't use them in self defense legally anyway.
Yeah, you can't. You'll wind up I in America you have your stand your ground rules and things like that, but in Canada it's quite different. You have to use an appropriate level of force. So if somebody breaks in your house and they don't have a gun and you shoot them, you're going to be in a lot more trouble than the person breaking your house. Do I agree with this? Not necessarily. If somebody breaks into my house, it's a free for all. You're going to get whatever you get. But yeah, I don't know if a gun would be the right solution for that. Maybe get a taser, bear spray. Well, bear spray inside, everybody's going to choke to death, and then just the whole thing
Honestly,
stops. So that could be a lot of fun.
I view it as a pretty big urban rural issue. In rural areas, I see no reason that somebody can't keep a shotgun centrally
Sure.
located in the house with some ammo next to it. And as long as everybody in the house is safe and knows what they're doing, kids aren't going to get a hold of it. That should be
Well,
fine, because you're in a lot of places in Canada, you're an hour and a half from the nearest police officer. That's if they respond immediately with lights on hitting the gas.
Okay, well, I'm in the
uh,
subdivision, so
Yeah.
concerns, advice, please.
So you can do a lot of work towards actually strengthening your home. Some of the things you want to do is at night, make sure you're keeping your blinds closed. The more people can look inside and see what is available to be stolen, the more likely it is that they'll want to come after it. Always be wary when you've got people coming in to do work in your house. More often than not, it's somebody who knows what they're looking for, and it's usually going to be somebody who's been in the house, whether that be, a worker, a cleaner, someone coming to check the meter, whatever it is. Go through, make sure all your windows are locked, because the thief's not going to come and break through your front door. He's going to let himself in through the window that he unlocked while he was working there earlier
Okay.
in the week. It's about keeping things secure. Don't brag about what you have, and try not to leave stuff out in the open. And you can buy reinforcements for your door. Just head down to, your local Home Depot. There's a bunch of
Okay.
different kinds. I like the ones that are spring loaded, that are basically the brass square that you can put a couple on a door, and you can reinforce the hinges. Hinges are almost always installed with the basic hardware that they come with, and it's crap. It's a little like half-inch screw. Replace that with a nice, 2-inch, 3-inch long deck screw, and it'll go right far into the wood and really sort of reinforce things. There's also films and or bar type things you can put on windows if you're really worried. There's a million good options when it comes to making your house a harder target. Planting rose bushes or nettles along your windows is great too. Stuff that'll be really unpleasant to deal with if somebody's trying to get in.
That's cool.
There's I can give you tons of advice.
Fake cameras. You can put up fake cameras. You can buy those for $20, put a little battery in them, and they move around and stuff.
Oh, I
and,
like that.
Put real
you know,
cameras up
and
too. I'm strongly advocating.
do the real thing. Put a doorbell camera and get a couple of fake ones and put them in different spots. I'm just make your place look unappealing, because they like to break into places that are well lit like a fishbowl, so they can see you from the outside and they can see the whole everything. But if you make your place look like a gun lives there, they're not going to break in as much.
Yeah, that's it
Okay.
Right?
exactly.
Make it look unappealing.
Yeah, one of
Good
the
advice.
things, if you don't have pets, making it look like you have a dog makes you much less likely to be targeted, especially if
Yep.
it looks like a big dog.
Okay.
These
Big
things,
mean dog.
these things all work, and there's a lot you can do. It's taking a look for simple security around the house. There's a ton that can be done, and that's something I could do an entire show about. That's something that we've talked about a lot in the prepper community, and I'm not going to get into the level that some of us get into with surveilling
Prepper
your property with
community.
drones and having
Oh.
decoy noisemakers implanted and all sorts of other cool stuff. It's just like I'm not going to teach you how to make field expedient landmines on the phone here. It's just not something that we're going to go over here on the show.
Okay. All
Send her
right.
the Anarchist Cookbook.
I haven't had one of those in many, many years, but if you're looking for
You
one
guys
of
are
those
giving
type of books,
you're
go for the
giving me
Poor
too
Man's
many
Chainsaw.
ideas.
Alrighty, so we've gone way off topic here, but
We have.
that happens basically every time I get on the air. So
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of bring this back to the foreign interference report, the Hogue Report again. So we had in the report there was 51 recommendations aimed at strengthening Canada's defenses against foreign interference. I'd like to go over some of them here, because a lot of them make a lot of sense in for Canada, but also for any other country that's dealing with this. So the first point and the most important was intelligence. The suggestion was to enhance intelligence collection and sharing, to improve the collection, analysis, and dissemination of intelligence related to foreign interference amongst relevant government agencies to ensure timely and effective responses. So, as it's not something that the Canadian government's dealt with regularly, they need to put in the frameworks to make sure that this information can be shared throughout. And once you've established that, that's a good way to have things work. I'm very, very pro that. The second was to strengthen the role of the NSIA. That's the National Security and Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister. And they want to empower the NSIA with greater authority to coordinate efforts across agencies, provide direct advice to the Prime Minister on matters of foreign interference. So that's actually taking a role within the administration and making them responsible for helping coordinate this across multiple police forces. We have provincial, local, and federal police forces, as well as intelligence organizations in Canada. And my guess would be that they're not always communicating in the most efficient manner. They also wanted to make it a little bit clearer to clarify coordination roles. This is all kind of about the same thing, and they wanted to make sure they establish and communicate clear mandates for all agencies involved in countering foreign interference to prevent overlap and ensure accountability. And they want to tie that to an overall foreign interference strategy and communication strategy. Well, while keeping an awareness and monitoring the online domestic information environment. They want to put together possibly an agency, possibly teams to monitor and assess the domestic online information environment. They're saying they want to do it to identify and counteract foreign interference activities. But if you're counteracting foreign disinformation, you're playing a catch-up game. That's what NAFO does, not and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fella, but it's that's sort of what NAFO does, not necessarily what you want to be doing as a government. That's one of the places where I think we need to come up with a more proactive approach rather than just responding to things as they come up. They're also talking about protecting and promoting online information integrity, both through legislative and other ways to reach out and working with social media companies. Now, I think that legislation and possibly heavy-handed legislation is going to be the answer that we really need. They also want to invest into digital and media literacy programs. We've had a pretty good media literacy program through my entire life in Canada, going back to, the House Hippo ads of the 1990s. And I've got friends who are teachers who've told me about the media literacy and information literacy that they teach and how to identify this. But these are things that have not come from the federal government as recommendations, but rather have developed at the local board level as a response to this sort of issue because it's been seen as an issue that needs to be addressed. So we really have had an issue with an overall strategy that is tied together. They also want to go with transparency in election security and engagement with political parties. They want to go and train candidates in our political parties and get them more aware. And they want to make sure there's some supports for targeted individuals. So this is only the first 15 of 51 recommendations. We could go through this all night. But the actual reports are all the actual recommendations coming out of this report are all fairly simple things that can be implemented that will actually make a pretty big difference over time. And it's I'm thinking that that's a step in the right direction.
I just figured a lot of this
We
stuff would have
already
been already happening, to be honest. I just feel like
it,
that now you're thinking of this? Like we've been screaming about this for a decade.
well, you have to remember the average, our nation and our government has the response time and the turning radius of the largest country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not very agile when it comes to this sort of thing. It takes a long time to get anything done, and once it starts going, it rolls very slowly. And that is particularly a problem we have in Canada, but across all liberal democracies.
Yeah.
That's ruling by consensus does make it hard to make decisions in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Which is certainly something we can take a look at. Like it's not necessarily straightforward or easy to address something like this, but the solutions are simple. They won't necessarily come fast. Setting up an entire infrastructure for communicating disinformation awareness to the entirety of the populace is going to be a pretty big undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how it's done, it may not be done well.
No.
So it's one of those things. But yeah, they're looking for more law enforcement training. They're looking for ways to smooth out the reporting process so civilians can report this information in a way that will get it actioned quicker.
Yep.
And get taken more seriously. They're looking for cybersecurity enhancements. They're looking to put in an even more robust set of whistleblower protections. Canada already has some of the best whistleblower protections in the world, but they're looking to ramp them up a little bit more. They want to start an actual research and development organization to fight disinformation and misinformation and basically just work towards the information war. Public education, evaluation, and accountability, where these types of reports happen on a semi-regular basis with snapshots going forward rather than being a full expensive report. They want to proactively engage with foreign embassies and consulates to communicate Canada's expectations. Now, I think that's going to be about as useful as tits on a bull. It's India's not going to give a damn. China's not going to give a damn. Russia's sure not going to give a damn. I don't think we have diplomatic relationships with Iran or North Korea.
No.
So things. One of the things they did list, however, is that one of the largest challenges we face is the intelligence to evidence pipeline. So there's quite a few legal barriers, and the government needs to consult on and implement measures to manage the intelligence to evidence challenge, ensuring that intelligence can be effectively used in legal proceedings without compromising sources or methods. That's one of the really big ones we're dealing with, and I think that's one that all liberal democracies are dealing with. And one of the big things they're talking about to deal with that is creating some new parts of the criminal code that deal with foreign interference offenses specifically to address this issue and strengthen law enforcement agencies to be able to follow up and enforce these laws. They also recommend full transparency in political donations, which, dear God, please, please do that. That would be awesome. And they want to also strongly restrict the ability of third parties to act in political activities in relation to Canadian elections. You'll notice that they don't really have much about cybersecurity for our elections because Canada doesn't use voting machines to tabulate things. Our votes are still counted by hand on paper ballots in Canada.
Not forever, but we probably would want to do that if we're going to institute anything else.
Yeah, if we do for now still have that advantage, and I think that is a good advantage to
Agreed.
have, having the ability to vote remotely if you're out of the country. And I really love the way we do our advance voting too. For the Americans that don't know, usually about a month before the election, you'll have little kiosks popping up at malls and public spaces where you can simply go in and give your ID and cast your vote at any time that is convenient for you in the month running up to the election, which is freaking huge. It's so convenient, and it's such a good way to do things. It is definitely something that could be taken. There's a couple of times that the report mentions support for diaspora communities. I think that this is specifically looking at diaspora communities from some of the foreign actors. I know that the Sikh community in Canada faces a lot of pushback from India, where the current Modi government views. Well, I can't even speak to it. We absolutely are in Canada having people who are fundraising for Sikh extremists in India who are looking to have their own state, and there is terrorist funding going on in Canada for that purpose, and it's something that we don't have a very good handle on, and that is one of the places that Canada has lagged behind very, very badly. So also money being flowed through Canada to Hamas as well, and lots of other organizations that really should not be happening. And that is one of the places where I kind of hang my head as a Canadian, because it's not a good thing to have happening.
No.
I guarantee there's someone out there funneling money into the Russian war effort in a big way here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's kind of depressing, but I'm glad to see it put out there in public, because that's it's important that we do that.
Yep.
We discussed the engagement with social media platforms. We discussed the public reporting. They're looking to reach out with international collaboration as well, and they're looking to engage with both national and international media, as well as the academic institutions to bring the issue to the fore and try to turn this into a multidisciplinary thing, which I've said it time and time again on these shows. When it comes to the disinformation, the information war, this is one of the most multidisciplinary things that you can get into. It covers everything in some way or another, whether it be science and math and the hard sciences, to social sciences, to human behavior, to tribalism and sociology, to everything else under the sun. It all kind of plays a factor here, and because it's designed to simply be a widespread, a shotgun approach to just cause some weakening across the board,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to target directly. What would you say about that?
Yeah, no, it is. And a lot of people don't even have the tools to be able to dig through this kind of stuff. But I mean, education is key at picking up disinformation and other, things that are going on.
It is, yeah. And one of the things we're getting to the end here. We kind of covered just about all the suggestions here.
This is a real snore of a document. I gotta tell you, I just thought it was going to have so much more in it. It's just, I mean, the 1 through 51 items. Yeah, that all makes sense. I'm like, we're not doing most of that. That was my takeaway from a lot of these suggestions.
Yeah, it was surprising that we're not.
Yeah.
The part that excites me is the technology development. So the government's going to be looking for tools and solutions, and looking to leverage AI in helping fight disinformation at a national scale.
Oh yeah.
Which, seeing a nation state reach into this is going to be a really big change, I think, because when you bring national resources to bear on a project like that, you're going to get some results.
Definitely. And what about as NAFO is, we do our thing, but there should be some place where you could kind of join to start taking down disinformation. I mean, we try to use humor and we bonk people and make it as funny as we can, and try to make it sort of a entertaining kind of thing. But collaborating with others and all of that would be great. But the government should get ahead of it, but at the same time, maybe helping with the domestic movements against disinformation. There's a lot of people who want to stop this shit. So what can they do to empower us more, right? Like, give us more power to do more out there, right? That would be a great thing for the government. I don't know what that is exactly, but maybe some money. Sponsor us.
Yeah, or we can just have a purge day where they'll overlook it when we're taking care of shitbags who spread lies on the internet.
Right. So,
Helen, please come on up. Good to hear from you.
So I'm kind of giggling to myself because are you guys suggesting that maybe CIA doesn't exist, but CSIS might?
No, they definitely exist.
Or maybe
Yeah, absolutely.
by CSIS. CSIS doesn't exist either.
I will tell you that I have had conversations regarding NAFO with certain individuals, and it's not on their radar.
Yeah, no. So I didn't read the report yet.
No, and
I have
you
to.
probably
you won't want
you
to.
probably don't want to. I tried
Well,
to.
I'm a little nerdy. I'll probably read it anyway.
That's fair.
But
If I could buy it in a book, I'd read it. But trying to read it on a device, it's just like, oh god, this isn't working.
oh, I hear that. I hear that. No, but so I guess my concern is, right now, most of the people spreading disinformation. I know there's bots out there, but it's people just maybe have been fed a line for Russian disinformation or whatever, but then they run with it and it becomes bigger and bigger. And so I'm seeing that. That's been a thing.
Yeah, it
Um,
has.
but
And
but I'm also seeing like all of my devices at work want to go AI. And so, in terms of disinformation, how the heck are we going to kind of keep on top of that when AI is probably exponential and we're only just humans? So, we're not giving up, but um, I think the landscape may change drastically in the near future, and I just don't know how to keep up with that.
the worst case scenario on that one will be, some of the infrastructure and power survives for a while, and humanity is extinct while there's a couple of bots slugging disinformation at each other and plugging OnlyFans links.
Yeah,
And that's all that's left
so
of human civilization.
so basically, um, don't worry about it because it won't matter.
No, you absolutely need to worry about it. I don't like the.
No, I was joking.
It was a little
I
bit
don't
of
like the
nihilism in
situations
this
where.
mess.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like the situations where humanity goes extinct.
No.
It's not really high on my list. Rachel, please go ahead.
Hi there. I just wanted to say I need to leave, but I just didn't want to press the leave button without saying you guys are great.
Thank you.
Thank you for what
Thanks,
you're
Rachel.
doing.
Yeah, we'll have signal.
All of you.
We'll have Signal and Noise from 6 to 8 p.m. every Thursday. So if you want to shop in again, please come on out. We'll be covering different topics every week.
All right. Well, thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Rachel. It's good to have you.
Okay. Great job.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So we've got about 20 minutes left here. We've covered this report in...
Well, if there's anybody who has any questions about the report, I have it up in front of me, and I have an AI agent that was ripping through it. So is there any questions anybody would like to know about it? Ask me. Let me see what it says.
So it doesn't really name names in any significant
It does not.
way. And it doesn't really, so there's going to be legal implications that keep us from accessing some of the information we might want to otherwise access there. So that's definitely... Oh, James is coming right back up here. So I'm sure he will have a good question. He usually does, or a good comment. But the inability to name names in that type of document is certainly going to be... it's certainly a cooling effect on the overall...
Yes, we're putting away our
report.
torches and pitchforks, unfortunately, but...
James, I saw your hand go up.
Does the report include anything about water systems? Community water systems kind of thing.
Finding out.
My guess would be no, but we'll find out in just a second here. One of the things with the hugely bulky report like this is that you've used AI to go through it all and detail and get fairly detailed summaries. And my summary is like 35 pages long, but the actual document is 900 pages. It's
there's nothing to do with water systems in it at all. What was your question for though? Like, what were you getting at?
Well, one, and it maybe that's the wrong word, right? It probably those are probably the wrong string, but in the United States, we have had hackers hack into some of our water storage systems, things like that. So, I was thinking about the physical vulnerabilities that are there, that comprise sort of what we've kind of been lazily calling hybrid warfare or war plus.
So in this, I asked that anything about hackers, and it comes back, yes. The public inquiry into foreign interference in federal electoral process in democratic institutions. Key points. Cyber threats identified. The report acknowledges that foreign states, notably China and Russia, have engaged in cyber activities aimed at compromising Canada's electoral integrity. And it includes hacking attempts, targeting parties, government institutions, disinformation. Well, okay, it's the same stuff over and over again. We've already gone through this,
and that's something I can speak to. Something I can speak to a little bit for you, James, because that dovetails nicely with my career. I've dealt with a lot of cyber incidents in my time, and what's generally happening is it's plausible deniability. The criminal organizations that are perpetrating these types of attacks, usually ransomware attacks, in an attempt to get money. But they come from places where this sort of activity couldn't be going on without government approval. There's no criminal organization in North Korea that is targeting outside countries for ransomware attacks that isn't working on behalf of the government there. Their people aren't even allowed on the internet. And the ones who are certainly not using it to do crime specifically right off the bat. They're using it to gain information and things of that nature. So it's generally state sanctioned rather than state sponsored, but it's certainly looking to exploit vulnerabilities across the board. And we have a lot of legacy systems, especially when you've got every town running their own water purification plant, and every individual organization having their own infrastructure. I worked for a company once where we found there was some control software that had been going on a industrial unit, and it was actually written in the 80s. And the software was still running this thing. But when it came to cybersecurity, the actual software running on it was completely
Pretty
vulnerable.
holy.
Like it was not in any way able to resist an attack whatsoever. I saw your hand come back up, James. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just I thought about all the diversity of legacy systems out there running this stuff. It might make it maybe perhaps a little better defended just by diversity. If there's a centralized system and you crack that, well, there you are.
Yeah, no, that's true too. It's that makes it one very, very big target, and that is absolutely a concern there as well. But the old mantra of security through obscurity no longer applies. They're gonna find it. They're gonna go looking, and they're gonna cause damage if they can get a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some very, very serious responses there. I did work for one company back in the day where a ransomware attack hit, and our solution to it, rather than pay out the ransomware, was to image about 30,000 new drives and get them distributed to all the employees. So that's not a small thing at all, 30,000 new hard drives that need to be loaded up with software and techs going to office to replace all the hardware is that's a pretty big deal. So some of this can be, yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, AI is pretty cool if you can chug through this one. Has Canada, or does this report include the estimated amount that Russia spends on Canada's interference?
That is an interesting one. I'm not sure if they actually included that type of information.
We'll know right
it
now.
Seems like the first one. Yeah.
Coming back.
Ours is
provides no
estimated at
specific
$2 billion.
It provides no specific figures regarding the amount money is spent on interference activities in Canada. The report acknowledges that countries like Russia have engaged in interference efforts, but it does not detail the financial expenditures associated with these actions. The omission is likely due to the clandestine nature of such activities, making it challenging to ascertain precise funding levels. Like, I want to know how much was paid to Tenant Media. How much did Jordan Peterson get? How much did friggin' the Toronto Sun get? How, like, Post Media? Like, of course there is money.
How much money went into the pocket of Brian Lilly?
How much does Brian Lilly get paid? Like, it would be nice to know these things, but again, I believe these are domestic issues, not foreign ones. But still, there's definitely grease out here. Why do these people recite Kremlin talking points on the regular in our own media? Why do they bash Trudeau constantly, but Pierre Poilievre could take a dump on the front lawn of our House of Commons and it wouldn't even get any attention? Like, there's something really off with all of it. None of it sits well with me. And this report, it's such a cooler. Like, I mean, how much did this cost us? Let me find that out.
It was pretty expensive. And
report.
Just while we're getting that information, I see. Well, it'll only take a second. And then next up will be Helen. Just Helen.
The cost has not been publicly disclosed.
Oh, no. So too much is the answer.
Way too much money.
So Helen, what do you got to add to this one?
So I'm just seeing on my timeline. I don't know if everybody in the US or in other countries see it, but certainly as a Canadian, I'm seeing just about every second ad are these things that have the CBC News icon, but it's not from CBC. And they all look alike, and they're published. But
so I can speak to
what
this.
I'm assuming is bots. But if you click on them, I don't click on the ad, but I kind of look at the first few people who are publishing them, and they have 0 to 2 followers. and they're following 13 to 22 following people, but they all show the one person they have blocked is Elon Musk. Have you seen those ads? I don't know.
No.
Well, I've seen the ads. Yes, I've seen lots of those, and there's some background to them. So investigation was done into those, and they are traced back to Russia, from what I understand. And they are accounts running ads that look like links to news sources, but they're designed to take you to malicious websites where they can compromise your credentials and basically steal your money.
Yeah. And so I don't know why Twitter's still allowing that, but how do we kind of fight back against that?
Well, the answer to that is legislation. Elon decided that he was going to buy this platform and completely remove all content moderation from it as a way to save money. And
Oh no, it was
until
definitely to mess with the public discourse. I mean,
well, yes,
right.
yes, that's fair. But the whole point is that he didn't want it to be moderated at all, so that it can just do evil.
Mhm.
And until you make that very expensive for him, and I don't care if he threatens to pull X out of Canada, let him. Fucking, we don't need it.
Nope,
Get rid of it,
we live
because
without it.
it's not helping anybody.
It's not.
You know, hit him with massive fines, and I'm sure he's guilty of some sort of crime. Charge him with it and request extradition. We'll never get him, but it still adds to it that if he ever comes back to Canada, or any of our allies who don't particularly like the smarmy fuck, he shows up and he's going away in cuffs.
Something's got to happen. But Elizabeth May said it, like, make these people responsible for the crap that goes onto their platform. And they have AI tools. They could do good with cleaning up the mess that we have. I mean, Meta recently went and kissed the ring, and they're removing all content moderation over there as well. So, and then the U.S., when TikTok went down, we're pretty sure U.S. will buy TikTok, and things have changed over there. But they're trying to own everything and, own the entire public discourse around what they're doing. These billionaire types, they're kings among men. The rules and laws don't apply to them, and that's ultimately the problem.
It is. And it's a big problem because, and I've said this one 1,000 times. There's the rich class have forgotten that death by angry mob is a natural cause of death for their type.
Yes, revolts happen, and this could be a revolution in the end. I don't know what that looks like, but if they make peaceful protest pointless, the next step is a free Luigi world. So
Yeah, I figured Luigi masks are going to be real popular in the next few years.
I agree.
There's just people who don't get it.
Like everybody who's on the left and the right, we're all closer to homelessness than we are to being billionaires. And we're all in the same boat in that sense. Like we'll never be these elite types at the top. So maybe the war is changing with all of this. Forget the class war nonsense, or sorry, the culture war stuff, because that's what they want us to fight about. Start going after the people with the money. The people who own all of our channels and debate, because honestly, trying to stop disinformation on a platform like X that's owned by the bad guy is like trying to trudge up a hill in mud with bad guys at every step. Like it's harsh. And I will say this too, any liberals or progressives still on this app, you are some tough ass progressives that are still here. Like most people bailed ship 2.5 months ago, and only us lunatics are still here doing this. But man, it's nuts. Anyway, I digress. James.
Well, there's some of these crazy brain damaged dogs here that are here. They say because this is where the fight is.
It is.
I need ammunition, not a ride.
Yeah. this is still the front line of disinformation, and we get to see in real time the garbage they're rolling out before it permeates its way onto the other platforms. So there is that, and that's why I stay here. Plus, there's tons of connections that I'm not willing to just throw in the trash and just go, oh, I'm not going to be here. I'm still going to use this. So that's the way it is. But yeah, that's where we're
One
at.
of the things I love doing is I've got my mom who's, you know, in her 80s, and I'll see something that is obvious disinformation that I'm pretty sure is going to make could get some get a little bit of traction, and I'll tell her, oh yeah, in about a week you're going to see this on the news. She's like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. It's because when you tell me about something on the news, I probably heard about it over a week ago, and it is ancient history to me by that point.
We're generally about you're right. That happens with my mom as well. I tell her stuff, she thinks I'm premonition, but it's just we get to see what the crazy stuff is going to be here before it hits the news waves. So there's truth in the fact that this is the front line of the war still. So maybe one day we'll get to Twitter back and some good people will buy it out from under him for pennies on the dollar. But I don't hold that much hope for it. But
I hope that someone will buy it from his estate at pennies on the dollar.
Something like that, exactly. Just have it go back into the right hands.
James, go ahead.
The Musk pool table is tilted, you guys. It's not a fair fight. Not even close. It's there's disruption algorithms that run against us, I think. Like, hey, you see that hand? No, I don't see any hand. What hand? Can you hear that guy? What? Who? No. Yeah, is that a ghost? Whatever. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's insane. It splits us up and just blocks the hell out of our best, most effective things reaching the ears of the people who most need to hear it. They disrupt.
I've noticed recently that I have started following right-wing lunatics on this app, and while they were always in my lists, I never actually followed them. And I know I never followed them because I know exactly who they are. And I have no interest in following them in my actual following feed. My following feed is all pro-Ukraine, and my lists are, my For You, like everybody, is a right-wing hellscape. And my lists are where I gather the disinformation. And so, yeah, I've been signing up to follow dicks. Like,
so
it's not
that is exactly the same strategy, but I took it a little bit further as I have an alt account and it's just all following right-wing trash accounts, so I can get the left and the right perspective almost instantly by going onto that other one and seeing the crap that the For You sends down. It's a completely different universe of thought. This website twisted reality in the real world, and that's what they've done. So you can create a pipeline and actually see what these people are being fed every day. It's no wonder they're feral and rabid. I would be worried too if I thought all this shit that rolls through that insane feed on the right is correct. Like, I'd be losing it. But yeah, that's what they're doing.
Now, we just have 2 minutes left here. So Peter, if you would like to drop down as a co-host to let Prince Heather come up, we're going to get her up because I do not want to go over time here because, in my opinion, we are followed by the most important segment on Volia Radio, which is Understanding Genocide. And I certainly don't want to step into any of their time there. So thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. Thank you for coming on the show, Cranky.
Thank you, Alex.
If you'd like to keep doing them, maybe we can sign you up as a co-host. And then we won't have to drag poor Peter onto here.
Oh, sure. We can figure that out for sure.
Yeah, because between you and I, just what we've done tonight, the only difference would be that you'd be able to bring up speakers.
Yeah.
Or kick speakers off the panel. That'd be the only difference.
I can do that too.
So that's... yeah, so maybe we can get you signed up there.
Certainly.
But other than that, thank you very much for your time tonight. And this has been Signal and Noise. And I hope everyone has a great day. Fight the good fight out there.
Join us for the radio. We look forward to seeing you again. Your audience. can stop her.